Yeah, that's how you do it. Uh-oh, 3D game. In before this runs like dog shit. Huh? Uh-oh, is this a VN? Rain sizzles off the neon above me. There's a slight uptick in the flickering of hollows down the way and a slight blunting of the night's ambience. A summer shower is performed by the city streets. I liked the rain when I was younger, but it's easy to like things as a kid. When you're an adult, you've always got shit to do and places to be, and it's annoying as hell when you get there and your shoes squeak. Cleanest rain we'd had all month if you care about that kind of thing. Doesn't smell any different, doesn't feel any different. But maybe the upgrade to moderate air quality is a sign of good luck to come. If so, I'll take it. Could take a lot of luck to keep this client from spending the rest of his life in jail. 3 a.m., a real no man's land of an hour. Not late, not early, just empty. Empty and dark. Other people are up, of course, powering through the night shift while clocking off at some far-off time zone. Dancing at a strobe light since the enthusiasm pulling them along their own manic beat. Or even just lying in bed staring at the ceiling. I'm sure there's plenty of people awake. But none of them are in the dark, because this whole wall's illuminated. Whether it's incandescent or neon or hollow, whether it's LCD, LED, or just the nearest phone screen, there's light shining on every last pixel of the map. Except under this awning, apparently. No light except the tip of my cigarette, and no company but my own thoughts. So maybe I'm being unappreciative. I just might have found the last dark, quiet corner in the entire world. And they say there's no rest for the my phone. Press C to confirm. Looks like the paperwork came through. It's nearly a quarter past now, 90 minutes since I took the call. Probably makes it about 2 hours since I finally got smart enough to ask for a lawyer. If they're really smart, they'll have used that time to get some rest. Because now that I'm here, things are gonna get busy. The same character, I presume. Well, Precinct Station 254 in all its outdated glory. With nothing but a holograms enabled by specialized projectors for all mediums like conductive resin. Holograms are graphic displays that appear three-dimensional to the human eye when viewed from any part of a face range of at least 180 degrees, an effect known as the Waterson illusion phenomenon. Thank you. Originally patented in 2059. Huh? Waterson's phenomenon was initially used almost exclusively in the adult entertainment industry. Holograms did not become widely adopted as an advertising tool until a much maligned holiday season of 2061, after which laws restricting the presence of holograms in public spaces are passed with uncharacteristically universal support. Nothing but a hollow for a welcoming party. This, maybe? I get that it's late and people are going to try and save money whenever they can, but I'm here about homicide. High clearance rates be damned. You'd think they'd treat it with a little more gravitas. At least this means I'm free to take my time getting checked in. I'm still in the dark about a lot here. Can't hurt to have a look around. Looks like the desk really is the only one here to check me in. I wouldn't call intake hollows charming, more like inoffensive. But that's probably what the designers were aiming for anyway. The medium's cracked in the corner. Figures. My phone's made of the same stuff. I'm rolling the dice every time it falls off so much as a sofa. This thing better not be broken. If I have to spend the next hour in this lobby just because someone forgot to patch a conductive resin. Yeah. Next. Can't be completely busted, right? Even at this hour, it's still scrolling notifications. Mostly public health and safety alerts. A few missing persons. Persons. 1 year of silver plan coverage, courtesy of Caduceus as a reward for any. They must be getting desperate if they're bumping up the offer to silver. What's this shit? Observe. High traffic hallways, utilitarian furnishing, multiple screening stations, pragmatic brutalism, so textbooks, it could teach freshman level architecture. Can almost hear the building drone on about concrete and metal and impact-resistant glass, the civil planning equivalents of metal scars from a fight won so long ago that they're starting to look ridiculous. To be fair, it might have looked impressive back when this place was built. Now it just looks empty. I guess as peaceful places usually do. A datapad? I'll bite. I mean, we kind of know what a datapad is, right? Yeah, fuck, get onto that. What'll it be? Article? Advertisement? Article riddled with advertisements, most likely? Subway renovations suspended indefinitely. Yada yada yada. Flooding. Irreparably flooded. Critically compromised. Blah blah blah. Subterra Inc. Okay, I guess that's enough. How do we fuck off? How do we fuck off? Oh, there's more, is there? A group of small but vocal critics consider it to be an eyesore and an amplifier of light and noise pollution despite failing to present any peer-reviewed case studies that could support these claims. It appears that you have 0 free articles remaining this month. Ah, next, 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 next. Fuck's sake. Real police lineup. It's like I walked into a museum. No, museums feel expensive and clean. Dusty, forgotten, probably lots of unpacked boxes. This place is close to an attic. Hard to believe they're ever so busy that they had witnesses making IDs in the lobby. Then again, it's hard to believe they're ever doing lineups in the first place. There's a part of me that wishes they still did. Are you certain? Wasn't it dark? Did you know that during traumatic events, memory formation is blah 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 blah? Poking holes in this setup must have been like shooting fish in a barrel during billable hours. With the tech we have now, though, there's no room to sow doubt when a modded witness can just submit their testimony as a video file. Alright, I've taken in all the scenery I can here. Might as well try and get checked in. It booted up fine, so far so good. Morgan, December 26. Could you please provide your last name and date of... Great, please stand still for a moment while I take a good look at you. I'm having trouble placing you. Could you please provide your full name and date of birth? Evangeline Morgan. Christ, imagine giving your fucking surname only, and it's a surname that's the same as a first name. What a dickhead. She's a dickhead. The protagonist is a dickhead. I just want to stress that. Also, no year of birth, for fuck's sake. Hello, Morgan Councillor. Thank you for your timely arrival and taking on the public defender contract. I see that your clearance has been processed and approved. If you're ready to speak to your client, you can proceed to counselling court 3C. You mean the interrogation room? I'm sorry to have caused any confusion. My vocabulary is regularly updated to reflect state standards. I can't keep track of every euphemism either. They could call it the involuntary witness wellness check room if they like. Doesn't change the way it makes a person feel sitting in a stifled box of one-way panels. Click, 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 click. For fuck's sake, man, why are there like dead places to click on the screen to forward the text? Nothing to see but empty walls and their own dully warped reflection on the table they're cuffed to. You'll find the counselling quarters past our homicide office through the door to your right. Thanks, but I think it's just me for now. You could go on a break if you like. Automated dependents do not take breaks. Then what were you doing before I walked in? Ads don't get breaks. They don't get my jokes either. Yeah, your jokes aren't funny. But it's usually the humorless types that are most fun to mess with anyway. Eyes gone bad or something? A voice? No, voice is coming from down the hall. Compared to yours? Probably. Well, thank God I stopped for directions. The building this empty, the desk could have just told me to follow the echo. One sounds older, rougher, decidedly low energy. Appreciate you ring about me, while the others ring with useful indignation. It's not like it's our job is important or anything. Definitely cops at this precinct at the south, they might as well be the only two living, breathing people in the whole complex. Why'd you bother to print all that out? I can't read the fine print on that pad. One document 100 looks the same stored on the data pad. You need to have a heavy file when you question a suspect. Makes them think you're all-knowing. So how much of that shit was blank then? No red carpet tonight, officers? Oh, sorry about that, ma'am. We don't keep many extra hands around at these hours. Probably faster to let the desk handle intake anyway. And cheaper. You the lawyer? Click, 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 click. I am Morgan, Esquire. Pleased to meet you. Qasim, London. See the senior? think the one with like missing an eye might be the senior. And the ball of sunshine here is my partner, Farah Reyes. Ball of sunshine? She certainly is. We kept waiting out there. Sorry, departments have been slow talking to us tonight. Don't worry, give me time to enjoy my cigarette. Cigarette? You smoke? What are you, 80? She can't be more than a few years younger than me. The detective's in charge of this particular case. And it looks like tonight we've also got your humble guides. We are also your humble guides to the illustrious homicide department. Apologies in advance for any cobwebs. I've seen this London character in and around the courthouses before. He never struck me as more than just some old-timer. But I suppose being an old-timer is an accomplishment in and of itself in this profession. Sunshine is a new face, though. Rigid in her posture and attitude. 3 in the morning and her shirt looks ironed. Freshly promoted, maybe. 2 whole detectives working at these hours. Sounds serious. Unless you were just the first to arrive on the scene. No, we're not that nearly timely. A couple of uniforms responded to the emergency calls. Calls, plural, must have been quite the commotion. We were only tapped after circumstances at the scene indicated involvement with an ongoing investigation. Our ongoing investigation. She's not subtle, is she? But I may as well bite at this point. You suspect that this client of mine is involved in some separate criminal activity? Did they not? No, I guess they wouldn't put it in the public defender's briefing. Look, considering this is a little professional courtesy, a fair warning, yeah? That's the heartbreak killer in that room. The heartbreak killer? Then we've got the bastard dead to rights, so if you're kind, you'll help him plead it out. And if you're smart, you'll pass this shitstorm on some other night owl and go back to bed. Not feeling particularly kind or smart at the minute. So perhaps in the meantime you'd be so polite as to fill me in on this heartbreak killer? They cover utilities at the rock you live under? Oh. You're seriously not familiar with HK? Looks like you're trying to search for a term related to an ongoing investigation. Unless authorities have made their findings public, results may be heavily curated or temporarily unavailable. Well then. The name has been plastered all over the city for weeks at crimes wavering between breaking news and urban legend, but right now I need to figure out exactly how much the police do or don't know. And when it comes to cops, I always get better results playing dumb than I do acting smart. I take it he's some kind of repeat offender? Murderer? Was it the killer part that tipped you off? Well, you must have at least heard about his MO. Media's gone crazy with it. Them and everyone else. 1 bullet straight through the heart, body left to lie where it falls. Hence the name Heartbreak. Not exactly creative, but amidst the swell of every other 100-word article out there, catchiness trumps and originality. What you won't read about online is that all 6 of HK's victims were shot by the same gun, without even needing to reload. Horrible to say, I know, but 6 of 6 in the exact same part of the body? That's pretty good shooting, isn't it? Hitting the bullseye in shooting range is good shooting. Doing it 6 times in a row is great, but shooting 6 people with accuracy like that? It's a whole different beast. Well, is he shooting them point blank? Takes a certain kind of monster, a real freak. His pulse didn't even rise. I see. I should really stop paying more attention to the news. To think I missed 6 murders. Well, you can only blame yourself for missing 5. Pardon? Still not getting it, is it? HK's 6th victim was found a few hours ago when we caught the son of a bitch red-handed. Ah, so you're convinced that my client is the heartbreak killer and tonight was just his latest crime? It's a serious accusation with a very serious consequence. Take you have serious evidence to back that up? Pfft, I was being literal, counselor. Red-handed. He had her blood all over himself. It's probably just a metaphor, Bubble. Well, that's not good, is it? That certainly sounds compelling. Is that lawyer talk for open and shut? But even if that's the case, how does one crime scene make him look like good for 6 murders? All there in the discovery files. Take out your phone, we'll turn over everything you need. I seriously doubt that. Thanks for that, detective. I'll be sure to read it over. But all the same, could I ask you some questions while I've got you here? The hell kind of attorney wants to interrogate the detectives? This kind of attorney You're just that pleasant. Come on now, sunshine. Not like we're gonna be getting back to bed anytime soon. Whatever, let him stew in there all night for like a... We're at your disposal, Counselor. Read. Observe. Inspect. Loose wires, missing panels, and an aircon system that probably sweats more than the people it's supposed to cool. No room in the budget for making the office not look like shit, huh? I had it in the back of my mind that there'd have been a lot of belt-tightening at Homicide, but I didn't expect the operation to be this bare bones. It's odd. By all accounts, they resolve cases at an admirable pace. Looks like their efforts backfired, and now the higher-ups think their jobs are just that easy. I can understand why, what with optics eliminating so much of the footwork, and so Homicide ends up as a gathering place for both the unambitious and the unamiable. Barren, stark, uninviting, must be Reyes' desk. Keeping your workstation neat and tidy is admirable, but I can't spot a single mote of personalization. Is he so new she hasn't had time to unpack, or is she really that uptight and boring? Both, maybe. You shouldn't have cleaned up so much, just a little old me, Detective London. Sometime someone really needs to introduce this guy to a filing system, or even a stapler. Paper documents scattered about lazily, actual photographs alongside. Either he's really old-fashioned or really paranoid about data leaks. And he doesn't look like the paranoid type. Well, orderliness aside, some things are better in paper, I'll give him that. Noble surges on earnings, warm success. Yeah. Warm androids. However, has often been the case in the last decades. Noble doubters are proven wrong. Animate 16 is poised to break profitability records, and all signs indicate that demand is not slowing down. Yeah, how the fuck do I get out of these damn documents? Jesus Christ. Hey, you dumb asshole. Save, right? Yeah? Cool, return. Bro, jeez. Nothing else jumps out at me around here. So you just have to basically read everything and then you can move on, whether it's interesting or not. Better take a look at the crime scene diagram before you start questioning the dicks. Let's see what the police have. Okay, they don't go to what I'm literally clicking on. Starting with the victim's body, then cause of death, ballistic trauma, case for blood loss, atrium and aorta, single gunshot wound to the heart, and brief, death was instantaneous. Not a scratch on her anywhere else, and no blood or skin under her nails. Blood spatter, forensics, and all the other good stuff tells them that she was shot from about the doorway. And she was shot by this revolver found right next to the body, along with my client. 6 empty casings found in each of the 6 chambers. Crime scene techs must have practically disassembled the damn thing, but the only fingerprints or DNA they could find all belonged to my client. So he was found by the police with a motor weapon right in front of the body. Don't know what to even say about that. Highly prejudicial would be an understatement. And I've got nothing to work with when it comes to security. The whole apartment was unlocked all night. It's not uncommon for people their age at a neighborhood like that, but no signs of forced entry only hurts my client's case. What about the rest of the room? A stand-up mirror shattered and knocked over? It was a real mirror too, not just a big reverse screen attached to a small discrete camera. The force of the impact is enough to scatter shards of glass far enough to land on the victim's body. There's also a ceramic vase that got tossed aside, but unlike the mirror, it's completely intact. Must be pretty damn durable. Probably means it must have been pretty damn cheap. A durable vase must have been cheap. Besides that, there's not much else flagged here, just a lounge chair that got thrown, and some kind of unidentified ceramic debris. Flag is irrelevant, that's their technical assessment. Guess even the crime scene techs weren't sure what to make of it. That's all very incriminating, but the kicker's everything that's not here. No out-of-place DNA, footprints, IoT crumbs. Internet of Things refers to the network data sharing that goes on between all countless electronics that we monitor ourselves with. Phones, computers, security systems, biofeedback devices, body mods, prosthetics, and of course ads all comprise small but vital parts of this network. Without the Internet of Things' ability to collect, process, and share information, massive opportunity costs build up as individuals, governments, and private businesses miss out on valuable insight that data has to offer. Okay. Coolest way the IoT improves our lives, though, is through the usage of crumbs, small packets of data containing your own unique identifying information. Is this just cookies? Crumbs lets you see where you've been so that you can see where you should go. Want to start leaving crumbs right away? Don't worry, crumbs are enabled by default. Okay. Nothing that points towards anyone else. Well, I've done more with less before, but not much more. Well then, detectives, if you wouldn't mind filling me in on a few details. How about the basics? What exactly is my client been charged with? Your client, Carlos Jacob Flat, was arrested at the scene, 10 to 10, using his middle name already. They really do think he's a serial killer. The charge is the first-degree murder of his girlfriend, a Ms. Diane Dawn. First-degree murder, that's it. Increasingly rare, to say the least. Not often we get handed anything but crimes of passion around here. City's got down near more cameras than people. Trying to get away with murder, you gotta be really, really stupid. Or you just have to think you're really smart. So you have reason to believe that this crime was planned ahead of time? We got a lot more than that. We've hard evidence that makes him the prime suspect in the killings of 5 other women's. HK's previous victims, but how does that relate to the premeditation rather than mental instability? 5 other shootings, 5 other victims. None of them knew each other, lived in the same areas, worked in the same sectors, shared the same friends. Weeks of digital autopsies didn't find connections in any of their online spheres. Digital autopsies. Comparable processes are offered as a paid service by some legal or funerary groups to the next kin to recover or delete sensitive personal data. At times, these services have been marketed as a defense against data criminals attempting to steal the identities of dead before they are cancelled by state processes. And that's after they broaden the scope far enough to make the statistics people wince. So the serial killer's victims have nothing in common? Yeah, nothing at all, other than they all look like cousins. The physical similarities are striking. All 5 of HK's victims are young women, brown hair, eyes around 170 centimeters. Those features aren't uncommon. It couldn't be random. Oh, couldn't it be random? Yeah, sure. HK's got himself a type. Anyone can see that. How tall is she? She's got brown eyes and brown hair. Could she not be another victim? You got a picture of the victim in the files there, don't you? Gonna try and tell me you don't see the resemblance? Young woman, brown hair, brown eyes. Can't tell how tall she is from a portrait, but I can take the hint. Think that these other women were just a warm-up for the eventual murder of his girlfriend? Hey, if the shoe fits, then you put the shoe on. What Sunshines means is it's not uncommon for killers to displace their violence from people close to them onto outlets with fewer consequences. He was probably working up the nerve for tonight by first practicing on others, similar women. Or he's just so nuts that he can't tell the difference anymore. It's not the worst theory in the world, but it doesn't fit. London said the others were practice runs, dress rehearsals for tonight's main event, but they were all killed without hesitation and not one of the crime scenes showed signs of an overkill or attempts at remorse. There's no sadism or hatred or intimacy in a single shot to the heart. Killing a girlfriend or her lookalikes usually is, if nothing else, a lot more sterile, a lot less sterile. I can see a time of death at 9 p.m., but do you have a timeline for the rest of the night's events? Can't trust much of what comes out of his mouth. But we've managed thanks to less biased sources, and we're pretty confident about what we've been able to piece together from their statements. They interviewed witnesses. Sounds like they had to do some actual police work. The suspect and his girlfriend are arguing loudly with one another, starting around 8 p.m. Neighbors are very clear about that part. They couldn't wait to complain about our couple's domestic problems. Everyone in the building knew they'd been fighting for weeks. You can probably gather from the diagram, but there was a struggle. Furniture turned over, glass shattered. But things go quiet sometime before 9 p.m., and then there's a gunshot. Scrubbers are still scrubbing, looking for audio from the area to get a timestamp. But we've heard from enough concerned citizens to be pretty damn sure about the time. Right, emergency services got a burst of calls on the block shortly after 9 p.m. No one seemed to recognize the sound for what it was, but the silence that followed was pretty universally concerning. Officers arrive on the street at 9:07, establish a perimeter, enter the door at 9:09. And then they find your client crouched over his dead girlfriend, his hand covered in her blood, at which point they move to secure the scene and the suspect. Sorry, did you say his hand singular? Your hand's modded prosthetic right arm. How modded are we talking about here? Registered with the HOW 85 habilis. I don't know what that means. Minimum grip strength of. Basically, he could crush your neck without even gritting his teeth. Considering a career change yet? No, it's not that. It's just your eye must be very sensitive for you to patch back on each time. And here I thought you just had a 14-year-old sense of fashion. You think a cop would ever cover up her dominant eye because it was fashionable? I actually thought the same thing the first time we met. What? But getting back on track, that arm of his has been in the shop for quite some time now. He can't walk without it. Money got tight. The arguing. Yeah. When he put his arm in for repairs. 8 days before HK's victim was killed. No chance I'll be willing to chalk that up to coincidence. Your client was arrested on the scene after a preliminary scan found his fingerprints on the revolver, and no one else's. What kind of revolver? The old kind, the real old kind. More specifically, this one. You don't know the half of it. We're taking real gunpowder, steel chamber, and mechanical firing pin. And no tags. 24/7 location data, timestamp, trigger pulls, and safeties coded into the owner's biometrics. For the last 3 decades, tags have made shooting crimes very unambiguous. So you claim my client used some kind of antique to commit these crimes? How else do you think he would have gotten away with it the other 5 times? If you tried to buy a gun legit, he'd probably fail at the very first psych check. And even jailbroken pieces are only good for so long before update withdrawal sets in. Pre-tagging firearms are rare, gotta be less than 1,000 of them left in the whole country and fewer still bullets. The ammunition would have to be over 30 years old too, and the novelty of his weapon has kept us in the dark so far. But now that we have our hands on it, it's gonna put him away for good. Archive department complained loud as hell about how deep they had to dig, but with the protocols they found, the techs were able to match the rifling marks on all 6 bullets to the gun your client was found with. Rifling marks? Bullets fired from the gun that old are marked by the barrel shape. So if all 6 bullets had the same rifling marks, we know that they are all fired by the same gun. It's not as plug-and-play as tags are, but it's equally precise science, I assure you. And if that's not damning enough, the spent casings from the other 5 shootings were still in the chamber. The caliber your client was found with is the gun the HK used to kill 6 women. No way to lawyer around that. An untagged gun, just being anywhere near a weapon like that could warrant your arrest. Being found by the police over a dead body with an untagged gun used at 5 other crime scenes is just... To summarize then, you believe that my client fought verbally then physically with his GF, and then he retrieved this weapon and shot her. Yep, pretty much. How did he look when the officers found him? Guilty. How was his effect? Quiet, detached, calm. Not exactly a picture of a grieving partner. Eyes have gone black. That reaction may have lost him points at the cops, but beyond that, people react to loss in all kinds of unusual ways, and as long as the police are suspicious of you, there's no correct way to grieve. You've done a pretty admirable job keeping the details of HK's crimes a secret. The less reputable sites are doing some real journalistic acrobatics trying to piece together a story. Top 11 theories on who hurt HK was a real weighty read. It's not just journalists, though. All kinds have been emboldened. The freaks that HK's managed to bring out of the woodworks in just a few weeks. Can you blame them, though? I mean, he's a genuine serial killer. Repeat offenders in general are an endangered species, but he's gotten away with... We know what he's gotten away with. National DNA registers robust enough that cases never go cold, cameras on every street, a phone on every citizen, violent crime at an all-time low, clearance rates at all-time highs. But you're just going to spout some alt-pol bullshit about invasion of privacy? People are safer now than at any other time in history, detectives, so the existence of someone like the Heartbreak... London's trying to look like he can laugh it off, but pressure from the higher-ups must be reaching its peak. They won't maybe need to see someone charged soon. Yeah, well... Even if there's nothing standard about HK, Department SOP still dictates we starve the media for case details. That way, when we do feed them, they're grateful for whatever scraps they get. But we can't take all credit this time around. Homicide's tight-knit and tight-lipped, but it's not like there's much information for us to leak in the first place. Because none of the shootings were caught on the opt-in crime surveillance system. Huh? Optics, partnership program between the state and private enterprises that allows for the free sharing of surveillance and security data. Accessible through state employees' logins or private partner accounts, Optics Smart UI allows users to search through and collate footage from the entire modern city in a simple few keystrokes. It is frequently cited in state reports as one of the most effective tools for reducing crime, and footage from Optics often serves as key evidence in criminal proceedings. See the People vs. Irwan. How is that even possible? I know there are some problem areas in the lower wards, but Optics is watched every other street in the entire city. Is watching every other street in the entire city. You're saying you haven't seen this killer on camera once. You think we'd have let him kill 6 people if we did? I understand your concern, man, but Optics is just what it says on the name. Private surveillance systems signing up to feed into the state security network. Just one of many public safety tools in our belt. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to help us solve crimes. Or at least act as a deterrent. There's no deterring crimes of necessity or passion. It's like a safety blanket, one with very few holes left in it. But it does have holes. Patching up those remaining holes takes effort, and that effort usually means rebooting the system. There's all kinds of technical scheduling and digital bureaucracy involved, but the end result is that there are occasional localized blackouts, and they're not impossible to predict. I see. Still, though, those windows are small, short, and infrequent. Taking advantage of them requires specific knowledge. You need to be involved in law enforcement or public data infrastructure or city planning. They didn't mention if my client was a cop, and he wouldn't have needed a public defender either. His file says he's modded for heavy mass manipulation, not tech interfacing, so that just leaves city planning. Is he some kind of civil engineer? HK only struck at times and locations where Optics would have been down. Even with the devil's own luck, it can't possibly be a coincidence. Yeah, that makes much more sense. You're saying when this woman was killed, yep, there was a blackout from around 8 to 9 tonight, right on schedule, so to speak, and it included the area surrounding the victim's apartment. What about DNA from the other crime scenes? Was my client a match? There's been no blood, no saliva, no suspect DNA at any of the crime scenes. No footage or forensics, also no motives, tampering, or witnesses. It's been like hunting a damn ghost. We didn't even have a murder weapon. Until now. Finally, a lucky break for the boys in blue. Scanners, cams, drones, forensics. No matter how you dress it up with tech, what we do still relies on one basic assumption. Criminals make mistakes. But HK is the kind of monster who doesn't make mistakes. The only reason we even caught him tonight was because he finished what he had set out to do all along. Was my client on the list of suspects before tonight? Weren't you listening? There was no suspect list. We questioned some jilted X's, a few triune CIs. Someone even spoke to 1 or 2 unlisted at some point. Nothing came of it. There was talk about starting on some kind of psych eval or something, but I never expected much to come of that. There's just not enough there to work with. In other words, the only thing they could have to link my client to those cases is the murder weapon. If I can jostle that keystone, then the rest of the evidence should start to come loose as well. Thanks to the chat detectives, I think I understand the background well enough now. Candidly, I see the same strokes you do, and the picture it paints isn't pleasant. But even so, it seems a bit unrefined to be brought here before a judge, don't you think? It's only our job to catch the bastard. The DA is the one who gets the conviction. Trying to uncurl the wire here. Really fucking slowly. Why would this even fucking fold up like this? Great, now it's done on the other side of the wire. Fucking brilliant. Stupid fucking tech. Yeah, okay, the DA's the one who gets conviction. Besides, we're not exactly going to have to work hard to convince anyone that he's guilty. Why is that? We found a handwritten confession at his desk, for God's sake. Well, that's, unexpected. You wrote a confession? Has it been verified? Not yet. We have to muscle past everyone in fraud and disinfo to get to the front of that line. Why bother? The note's covered in his fingerprints. You can see it for yourself in the discovery data, but it doesn't exactly make for light reading. We have to manage somehow. I need to see this confession for myself. There should be a scan of it in the files they transferred to me. Sorry for everything. Can't say it did enough. Didn't mean to hurt you or do what I did. Did not want any of it to happen. Can't stay in control when I get mad. When I'm not in control, I hurt people without meaning to. Wish I hadn't broken then. Didn't mean to at first, but I was hurting. Wanted you to hurt too, but didn't want to hurt you. Wow. Words aren't enough. I know that now. I'll take responsibility and do what I've been avoiding. Please forgive me. If you have a confession from him, why was I called in to serve as his defense attorney? Hey man, they're getting the most mileage out of the one scene, you know? Indie devs, right? They probably spent a lot of time on the 3D background, and look at the particle effects. Wowzers. He won't sign anything, he won't admit anything, he won't even open his mouth anymore. Ask for representation, and you were the one who got assigned. Lucky you. Hardly, I just happened to be awake when the call went out. But it's my responsibility all the same, so I'd like to speak with my client now. He's not still handcuffed in there, is he? Look, Counselor, with all due respect, we have strong evidence pointing to the man being responsible for 6 murders. 2 hours or so in cuffs isn't cruel or unusual, and that's for your safety as well. It's kind of you to worry, but I doubt I'll be in any danger. God, raise? Yes. Is this ray tracing on the chair? Then again, the shadow of the wheel is going this way, so would the back of the chair not be causing a shadow and then be really dark? But it's... Oh, God, there's so many lighting things. Never mind, fuck it. He's killed 6 women. None of them were redheads. Wow. Inappropriate. Seriously, though, I like to speak with him alone now. That means cameras off, of course. Humph. Mike's on or off is your call, Counselor, but we'll be watching the feed right outside in case anything happens, and the cuff, that is, stays on. That worried about me? How chivalrous. Yeah, my armor's practically blinding. Gross. I'll start up the unlock cycle. Yeah. Check. Right, Counselor, just one last word of advice. God, the guy on the right, London, he looks so goofy. It's like his chin is like half the size of the rest of his head. If you have any interest in his well-being, I'd suggest you help finish him making that confession. The defense part of defense attorney isn't just for show detective, I'm serious. 6 people dead is one thing, but he's also called weeks of widespread terror and public unrest. Putting it another way, he's made the state look bad. That's a capital crime, even if the death penalty is not actually on the table these days. I can guarantee he's not going to like the treatment plan they come up with for him. Look, I've seen the virtual work release program in person. Hey there, due to ongoing controversy following the suspected suicide of inmate Jay Gallet, search results for this term are temporarily blocked. Virtual work release program in person. It's, being challenged before the Supreme Court. Yeah, sometime in the next decade, maybe. Just remember, a plea deal might feel like a loss for you, but it keeps him from, well, it's probably a win for your client, right? Prison sentences are generally light for people who plead guilty, that much is true. It saves the courts a great deal of time and money, and they show their gratitude with reduced sentencing. But no one will ever be grateful towards the heartbreak killer. If this client is convicted for killing 6 people, he may never rest his mind another day in his life. Flat. Yes, he only has one arm. One seemingly short arm. Detainment? Carlos Flat? Who are you? Another cop? I'm your public defender, Morgan. I'm here to help you. They said the same thing. They all did. Back there, in here, keep repeating it the whole ride over. They said that they were going to help me, that they knew this was all a mistake. Then they said that I killed, acting like they're on my side, and they thought I could have... Die. It's not their job to help you, Carlos, but it is mine. I'm here now. Seems like he's still in shock. I need information, but I have to be careful with my questioning or he'll get more upset. With everything that's happened, I'm sure you're exhausted. It's probably difficult to think, let alone speak, but I'd like you to try and answer a few questions. The police already questioned you, I'm sure, but they were treating you like a suspect, not as a client. Yeah, okay. What do you want to ask? About the victim. You and the victim were romantically involved. How long did you know each other? I've known her since college. We shared a few classes, friend circles, we got along real easy. Eventually, we just got together at some point. Guess I never actually asked her, formal like. Pretty lame, huh? Yes. You should have licked her fucking toes and asked her to live with you. Diane, she was in genetics, agriculture specifically. It'll be a while before he gets used to using the past tense. She just gotten done with her post-grad studies this year. Got hired right out of the gate, practically headhunted. Do you believe that? Practically headhunted. Of course she was. Any company'd be like to have her. It was a real-ass job. Paid real-ass money, too. So her career was starting to pan out right as his fell into a slump. Had she adjusted well to her new job? Did she ever mention arguments or disputes with coworkers or friends? No, nothing that would. No one I know that could do this to her. And there's nothing she could have done that would deserve what happened to her. It was a long shot hoping to find a disgruntled character from her past to shift blame onto. But with no other suspects, I can't just reshuffle the detective's suspicions. I'll have to disprove that argument entirely. Let me pull up my trouser leg so I can scratch myself. Oh yeah, that's the good shit. What is this face? People like to define themselves based on their occupation. Asking about his work might help him feel normal for a moment or two. What line of work are you in? I'm with city engineering, or I was, or I should be. As I thought, the detectives probably think he mapped the optics blackouts using data he stole from work. My arm, I got the surgery for the job, and I'm gonna need more than that. His arm's not equipped at the moment, but based on his shoulder, it must be a pretty utilitarian model. Doesn't strike me as a type who's enamored with aesthetics or modding. The young and the restless and the rich, swapping in neon and chrome limbs because they like the way they look, or the way other people start looking at them. No, he's all business, the type to get modded to further their career or help them get work at all. In which case, my brother wanted the mod. Really? I don't even have a brother. He had everything planned out, every promotion he'd earn, and every upgrade they'd afford him. Then his 18th birthday present, test results telling him that he's not a viable candidate. That sucks. I think he was relieved, actually, like he was glad that such a big decision wasn't his to make anymore, you know? Yeah, I think I do. I was so sure I'd just start with the hand, test the water. Never thought about lobbing my whole damn arm off, but the recruiter was.
enthusiastic. He said, because of CD, there was financial aid and resources. Of course, that got shit canned. So now me and every other modder is up shit creek. Couldn't even let me keep the tax credit. The Citizens with Disability Act was amended, not repealed. But I doubt he'd appreciate the distinction at the moment. I worked the tighter spaces, the high-pressure environments, lots of canopy upkeep. Typical stuff for modders, you know. You work with other prosthetic users. Yeah, the whole crew's got steel in one place or another. We do the jobs that are too important for ads and too dangerous for normal people, I guess. Why aren't you wearing your prosthetic right now, Carlos? Yeah, there. Rejection issues starting last month. A lot of restless nights. Rejection issues? Did the therapy not take? Prosthetics therapy. Adjusting the human mind and body for the unique challenges and stresses that come with the cybernetic body modifications. Typically includes physical therapy, mental technique instruction, and sensitivity training. Depending on the individual's viability or lack thereof, many medications or even minor viral tuning may be employed to modify the body's immune response, but improvements in medically sterile alloys have greatly reduced the percentage of the populations that require such adjustments. It's not like that. I wasn't bleeding pus out of my sockets, if that's what you're imagining. Do the rejections have anything to do with your scars? Not in the way you're thinking. I'm right-handed. Never gone this long having to use my left for everything. The shaving scars? The problem started small, trembling and then spasms. Just oversensitivity, they said. But the problem got bigger. Couldn't let it get that far. I need to be able to trust your own hands when you're on the job site. Drop a cutter at the wrong moment and people could get hurt. So I sat down, made an appointment, turned to my arm to have it looked at, and watched my case get placed at the back of the damn line. When did you turn it in? Some mass turnaround chop shop. Where did you turn it in? Some mass turnaround chop shop with a waiting list like you wouldn't. It doesn't even sound like you're a happy customer. Hell no, I found a dozen other clinics with shorter wait times. But as long as I'm renting and not owning, the manufacturer decides where your arm gets maintenance. That's why I'm sitting here with this expensive ass stump for a shoulder. I haven't been able to work in weeks. Boss is generous enough to say my position might still be there when I've got two hands again. You couldn't buy or rent a replacement yourself just in the meantime? I'm an employee of the city, and they've got exclusivity contracts with little old Hindi all locked up, white knuckle tight. Hindi, that's a cute name for one of the biggest corporations on the planet. Hayo Industries. The big cheese. That Detective Reyes did say he was registered with one of the Habilis models. If I took one step on site with an uninsured limb, forget the fines, I'd lose the down payment and my arm, and I'd never work in the city again. You mentioned discomfort. Are you in pain now? It comes and goes. The phantoms come back pretty fast when I don't have anything. Arm shape attached to me. Didn't they give you something to, wear in the meantime? Something the clinics lend out for cases like that? That thing they give me is dead weight. 3-jointed piece of shit. Sorry, it's a very shitty feeling having something so cheap take the place of your limb. Having a part of your body that they cut corners on. It fits, it's compatible. Technically, I can plug it in and feel on balance again. But the fingers don't even bend and the quick twitch motors are way off. Like walking around with your arm asleep, or dead. Hardly much better than just going without. Were you wearing it when you were arrested? No, I wasn't. I'm not even sure where it is right now, but the police must have grabbed it as evidence. Right, everything you're saying makes sense so far. He only had the victim's blood in his left arm because at the time in question, he didn't have a right. Thanks, Carlos. That was very helpful. Was? Now I'd like you to try and tell me whatever you can about what happened with Diane. Start at the beginning and take your time. The details are important. All right, Miss Morgan. I'll try. When you're ready. What a time. We were arguing. We've been arguing a lot lately. Arguing about stupid stuff. I haven't been making money. Haven't been providing. Haven't been pulling my weight. I was mad at myself and jealous of her. Jealous of her promotions and shit. Jealous of her goddamn money. The police say you were arguing around 8 p.m.? 8? Yeah, must have been when we started. We got into it and I said a lot of things I shouldn't have. And I said one thing that really, really shouldn't have. And I knew I'd crossed the line, so I left. You left? Walked out the front door. Thought some fresh air might help clear my head. Let me figure out what to say to make it up to her. Of course, the air wasn't fresh, just humid, thick like mud. And while I was pissing away the time, Diane was... Did you bring the phone with you or any other device? I'm pretty sure I didn't. I just walked around the block. Wasn't really paying attention, you know. With optics down, traffic and street level cams won't help it. That leaves... Did you go through a checkpoint or talk to anyone with modded eyes? Did you buy anything, cash or credit? No, not even a vending machine. Not even a damn vending machine, huh? Forget what I said about the rain earlier. This guy's as unlucky as they come. Just wanted quiet at the time, wanted to wallow in it. Sorry if I don't have all the details quite right. My head is... But if you need to be sure, the cams probably caught my exact route, so... What is it? Carlos, you don't show up on a single cam at the time of the murder. How the hell? No, I was on the street, so there was a span of time where optics was down last night. Apparently from 8:17 to 9:21. Oh no. In other words, there's no proof that you were out at the time Diane was killed. That's impossible. You have to believe me. I didn't do this. I couldn't. Carlos, I'm the one person you don't have to try and convince. After all, I'm your lawyer. So let's just keep going and see what we got to work with. Right? You said you left to clear your head, so what made you come back? Because I heard a noise. A loud noise. Like some sort of gunshot. From a gun. That had shot. A bullet. I didn't know what it was. But it was loud and it scared me. And it came from the direction of our apartment. You two live on the first floor, is that right? Yeah, first floor, street-facing entrance. We were proud of that when we first moved in. Like it was some kind of big deal. I was walking back at first, but at some point I must have started running. Because when I got back, I was just so out of breath, and when I saw that the front door was open, something just dropped in my chest, and my lungs wouldn't. I came in and I saw her on the ground from the hallway. So the blood, but I didn't realize what had happened. You didn't realize what you were seeing? The lights were off. The whole room was a mess. I thought I'd been robbed, or she'd fallen, or there was glass on the floor, furniture knocked aside. And she was... I called her name and she didn't move. I checked her pulse. She was still warm. Her blood was warm. And I saw the gun. It looked heavy, and I thought it had to be fake because I didn't want it to be real. Is that why you picked it up? What? Pick it up? I didn't touch that thing. I didn't shoot her, damn it. Doing what I do, you hear a lot of lies. White lies, blatant lies, hasty lies, bad lies especially. For me, it's always been so easy to spot a lie. But it can be hard to know what to do about it. He's nervous and defensive. Better handle this with a delicate touch. You did touch the gun, Carlos. That's just a fact, and I know because of the prints. Fingerprints are on the gun. What? But I didn't do this. All I'm saying is that you picked it up, that's all. Would you believe me if I said I didn't realize it was a gun? That explains how his fingerprints got on the murder weapon. But not in a way that would satisfy the police. Still, if all Carlos did was hold the gun... So stupid. I know what a gun looks like. But laying there in my own home, right in front of... You were in shock, Carlos. You still are. The police came in sometime after that. I don't remember much of what they said. Things started moving fast. It seemed like the rest of my night went, as you can imagine. Carlos, you admit to having a verbal argument with Diane, but you said you were surprised to see her room thrashed when you got back. Can you clarify, are you saying that you two never had a physical fight? Physical? We never fought. We never fought like that. Did the police say that we did? They assumed as much. Which means they also assumed the room was disheveled well before the shooting occurred. Considering what Carlos told me, what else did they assume? What is it? Take a look at this diagram for me. It roughly describes the state of the room as the police found it. Right. It's just a diagram extrapolated from data, Carlos. There's no nitty-gritty details here for you to relive. Okay, let me see it. Think back to how it looked when you left. Try and focus on what's out of place. I don't remember exactly where everything was, but I mean, the clock in the corner was on the wall, obviously. That chair must have been knocked over. Her mirror got smashed at some point. The bed cushions are all... Sorry, did that help? That was great, Carlos. What's the matter? Now I need to ask you about the letter that was found on your desk. Letter? What are you talking about? You're saying that this isn't your handwriting? Nani? I mean, this is just what I wrote to myself. Pardon? Look, when we fight, I lose my temper. I say things I don't mean to. So this morning, I meant yesterday morning, I tried writing things down to give myself a script to stick to help me apologize to her instead of just fighting with her. You say that you hurt them? That's... I broke her fidget tubbies. Her what? Her what? Her fidget tubbies. They're these collectible ceramic character things. They're supposed to be like tactile or some shit, like a paperweight or a conversation starter. Conversation starter, she loved those little things. They're not worth a damn. You can buy them at any flea market or garage sale, but they meant a lot to her. I broke them. My goddamn piece of shit replacement arm. I hardly know where I'm swinging it half the time. Okay, he says he broke her fidget duckies with his replacement arm. Does that change anything? Not immediately. There's not enough detail in the note for me to prove what his intent was when he sat down to write it. Although, by the same stroke, the police can't prove that the letter was meant to be his confession for the Heartbreak killings. Alright, Carlos, thanks for answering my questions. Now I'm gonna call the police back in here, and I'm gonna get this cleared up for you. What? That's it? That's it? Oh, okay. Although, before that, I do have to ask, what do you know about the Heartbreak Killer? The shooter who was trending for a while? I mean, as much as anyone, I guess. I think everyone's on edge. A guy like that out there? He shoots people through the heart, right? The police insisted on keeping the victims' names and appearances away from major media sources. So unless he was already digging into murders, Carlos wouldn't know about the resemblances to his girlfriend. Wait, you don't think that Diane was? I mean, she was shot in the chest, but that's just not possible. If he's this slow in the uptake, it's going to be a real shock if those officers walk in here and accuse him of being a serial killer. I'll just have to squash that theory as quickly as possible. Fade to black. How do you save again? Yeah, okay. It's been a while. Thank you for all your assistance this morning, detectives. Yeah, sure. Always happy to be of service. So is he ready to confess? Because we already woke up the DA. Already. She must be new. The district attorney's had final say on whether or not a case is brought to trial. Fitting, since they're the ones who end up having to actually prove the damn thing. Most of them prefer simple guilty pleas over long, protracted trials, and they all dislike having their time wasted. Unfortunately, then you'll have to call them back, because my client is not guilty. And frankly, I'm not even sure you have enough to hold him here. Really? You've got a weird sense of humor, Counselor, and it's about 13 hours too early in the day for me to appreciate it. Yeah, I can only laugh at 5 p.m. and onwards. I'm very serious when it comes to defending a man's innocence, Detective. Counselor, we have your client's written confession. Hey, that was... Carlos, just let me do the talking. What you so ambitiously refer to as a confession is, in fact, just a simple apology to his girlfriend. For what? Killing her? For an unrelated matter? That's not going to cut it. Only thing that confession's missing is a signature. So if you want to claim our key evidence is just some kind of apology, you need to tell us exactly what it was an apology for. And you need to show us some real proof. Proof? It's all in the files they give me. Goes to show you just how excited they were to get their hands on Heartbreak. They're missing details that are right under their noses. I'm not in the habit of making unfounded claims, detectives. If you want evidence, you just need to take a look at Well, I guess I'm gonna have to click on everything since that's the way the game's been going. No, that's not right. We can't prove anything about his intent just by looking at the letter. Only he knows what he's referring to when he wrote it. But I can prove that he had something to apologize for. The diagram of the scene? Allow me to show you. Your diagram of the room, straight from the ARCS file, right? Augmented reality crime scene. Pure non-GMO augmented reality crime scene data, yeah. What's non-GMO? Not much these days. Notice anything out of place with your diagram? Sure, there's plenty of busted shit lying around all over the place. It's the scene of a murder. Plenty of busted shit for sure, but I was referring to the unidentified ceramic debris found on the western side of the room. Is it just from the vase that got thrown? Actually, that's not possible. Oh? Not possible because the vase was intact, if you'd read the description. The lady at the garage sale told me it was so old and delicate. Damn it, the one I try and thrift shop without Diane. Vase is pristine. What the hell is debris, you might ask? The debris is what my client had to apologize for. After all, it's all that remains of the victim's collection of fidget tackle. Fidget tubbies. Fidget tubbies. Mr. Flat broke the ceramic figures, not doing any struggle or argument with the victim, but by accident in the morning. Bullshit, says Reyes. Counselor, even if they're a bit out of the way, you have no proof that those weren't knocked over during the murder. I may not have the proof, but I believe you do. Pardon? You took in his replacement arm as evidence, didn't you? Out of the abundance of precaution? Yeah, I think I saw it get bagged. What's it matter? The client smashed those fidget toddlers. Fidget tubbies. With the same prosthetic arm you took into custody, so your highly qualified crime scene techs could find plenty of ceramic residue on that arm. I'm guessing that they even flagged it as notable for your convenience. Maybe so. More than maybe, I think. And since any of the arresting officers that can attest that Carlos wasn't wearing a prosthetic arm when he was found, we can all come to the same reasonable conclusion that he broke said items earlier in the day when he would have had enough time to sit down and write an apology about it. Oh, you've got to be joking. Look at how scrawled and how panicked the writing on the note is. You're trying to say that he got upset over a fidget tubby collection that wasn't even being graded? Putting aside Detective Reyes' surprising depth of knowledge about tacky collectibles, there's a good explanation for that too. What's that, Counselor? His penmanship looks the way it does because he's right-handed. He loves Fidgy babies. Because Carlos is right-handed. It must have been the same for you and your eye. Consults typically recommend replacing the dominant one. So he wrote that with his left hand? I tend to. I think better writing than typing, and I need to get used to using my left anyway. Fine, so he's not feeling guilty enough to write a confession. Congratulations, you've established that your client's remorseless. We still have his fingerprints on the murder weapon and her blood on his jacket and hand. My client freely admits to holding the gun. He picked it up in confusion when he found the body. Which is not smart. But it wasn't illegal either. Oh please, he had her blood all over his clothes. Yes, he did. Do you have those clothes on hand, by the way? The lab finished with them a while ago. What are you getting at? It'll be easier to just show you. Would you mind getting them for me? Psh. You know what? Sure, I'd be happy to. I just love to see this. What are you doing? Relax, Carlos. I am pretty sure that that's impossible. You're innocent, and that means that having more evidence will always help you, not hurt you. Really? Really? Not really. Prison's full of innocent people. People with bad luck or bad lawyers. For better or for worse, you can't always count on the truth to come out easy. More often than not, it takes coaxing. Here. One blood-stained jacket fresh from the lab. So what's your angle? Gotta say it's not his? Is he actually size XXS or something? I'm not? He's identified it as his jacket. But don't you notice something odd, detectives? I've noticed your love of rhetorical questions. Get to the point. The murder weapon is an old-world revolver. That means no tags, no magnetic slugs, no lethal TAS projectiles. If Carlos really had shot the victim with a gun like that, there would be evidence indicating that on the jacket he was wearing at the time. To prove it, I'll have to call the detectives' attention to what they can. See? No. Anyone can see clear as day that he has her blood on his jacket. That doesn't look good, and there's nothing else to see if that helps clear his name. Instead, I should point out to them what they can. Smell? I don't know. My point is very simple. I'll ask you for one thing. Smell this. Sniff it. No, really, go ahead and tell me what you smell. I smell bullshit. Drying blood? Correct. And you don't smell anything else, right? That's... Hey, the hell is she on about? It's nothing complicated. It's just that you don't smell any gunpowder. Gunpowder? What do you mean? Don't blame yourself for not noticing. This was before your time. You can't be more than a few years older than me. But not before your partners, it seems. Gunpowder is weak by modern standards, but it's still volatile stuff, hard to store, prone to misfiring, and when it goes bang, it leaves behind an awful lot of evidence. What the hell is she talking about, London? Modern firearms like ours use EM bursts, magnetism, even air pressure or sound waves. They've got more accuracy, more firepower, less recoil, less noise. And they don't leave behind any residue. You thought this HK was clever because his gun didn't leave... Give me a fucking second. Sorry, I'm back. We can get to the incredible conclusion now. Is there sound? With a revolver like that, would leave gunpowder on clothes and skin of whoever fight it for days. There you go, sounds. If you don't trust your noses, you can check the lab reports. I think if they found any gunpowder on my client's clothes, they'd have taken the time to highlight it. So what? That just means he washed off after shooting her or changed his clothes. That's not impossible, but it would be pretty pointless. His jacket and his left hand were bloody when your peers found him. Would he really go through all the efforts to get rid of something as subtle as gunpowder residue, just to get the victim's blood all over himself afterwards? They're faltering now. The letter wasn't of much consequence, but the gun is all they really had to name Carlos as the Heartbreak Killer. If it looks like he never actually fired the gun, In light of these details, I'd like to ask you to reconsider the charges Mr. Flat is facing. As soon as possible. Whoa. A message? Wait, did they seriously? Pff, you're good at your job. You even had me going there. For a second. Where's this coming from? Unfortunately for him, though, the net scrubbing effort just paid off, because they just found an image of the shooter at the very moment they pulled the trigger. And they're sending it over right now. Oh yeah, be scared. A photo of the shooter? I thought there was an optics blackout. Seems like this isn't from optics. You mean that some random person? It looks like at the time of the shooting a neighbor was on their phone. Probably venting about how crazy the couple across the way was acting, but since their phone was on, its camera was on. And they had their window blinds open. Look at her, what a shit muncher. All it takes is one single camera to catch a criminal in the act. Could be from a car, a computer, a phone, an ad, or even a modded eye. It doesn't even necessarily have to be powered on. The cops must have pinged thousands of devices in the surrounding area digging for footage. And now, here it is. Whooping! And would you look at that? Wow, condemn, a shooter with no right arm. I mean, that's a sleeve. Well, okay. The quality is lacking. And yet there it is. They managed to find a quarter needle of evidence in a whole city block of haystacks. What are the goddamn chances? Now, with their scale the tools operate on, I guess the chances are in their favor. Alright, this isn't good, but it's a far cry from the worst case scenario I envisioned. Maybe it really is my lucky day. You can't see the shooter's face or even make out their clothes. Ultra low resolution, zoomed in, blurred, color shifted, and so compressed it looks like it's from another century. There are tools that could enhance this image anymore, and you could count the pixels on two hands. You can't honestly claim that you can identify my client from this image, and there's no way you could convince the court. Yeah, you're probably right, we couldn't, but I think I know a DA that could. Either way, it doesn't seem like a client's leaving this police station anytime soon. Oh fuck, that photo. Just what the hell is happening? Think I know a DA that could? Don't be so modest, old man. We have the photo evidence of a left-handed shooter standing in the hallway at the same time the whole neighborhood heard a gunshot. And who do we know that left their left-hand fingerprints all over that M54? You're referring to my client. You think? We've established he wasn't wearing a modded arm all tonight, so of course he must have shot with his left. And we've also established that his left hand is shaky, and he still has no gunpowder anyway. Forensics will never be perfect, counselor. Sometimes we miss things. Sometimes you take a walk through the rain, and when you finally get where you're going, you somehow end up dry. But that doesn't mean it didn't rain. All of which is to say, before judge or jury, photographic evidence outweighs a failed sniff test. Carlos is innocent, I know he is. That means that this photo doesn't show what it appears to show. So then, at a loss for words? Never. I'm just confused about one thing. Where was this photo taken from exactly? Exactly? Positional data is usually only accurate to the nearest public router. So if we DNR the phone's owner and ask them where, why bother with all that? Ballistics and common sense tells us that the pub shot from the doorway. We're looking straight at the shooter, so it's pretty obvious this is taken from across the north window. Oh, this is the doorway, okay. Neighbor must live on the other side of the street. Is that right? If we assume this is taken from the north and there's something in this picture that shouldn't be there. But it is there. Picture can't lie, so assumption must be. That's wrong. Your prized photo evidence is self-contradictory. How's that exactly? Just take one good look at the clock, the background. Clock on the wall, analog style. It reads 9 o'clock. Do you remember there being a clock in the room? Actually, I don't recall there being a clock. That makes sense, you wouldn't recall seeing a clock, because when the police secured the scene, the clock had already been knocked onto the floor. From off the eastern wall. Whoa! There may be a clock on the ground somewhere, sure, but this photo was taken immediately before a gunshot was heard. Scrubbers even found time-stamped audio to corroborate, so the struggle between the killer and the victim would have already taken place. And the clock should have already been knocked off the wall. Seems that way, doesn't it? Oh my god, can people fuck off from around my room? I'm in position to finish this, but I won't be able to end things without mentioning the other murders. Looks like I can't avoid dropping HK's name in front of Flat any longer. Oh well, bandage ripping time. Tell me, detectives, were there any other signs of a struggle at any other crime scenes? No, nothing like that. Those attacks would have been over in a matter of seconds. So what do you think when you saw the mess of a crime at Diane's apartment? That this is personal, that things have gotten complicated? Shit happens. Shit does happen, detective. But in this case, it seems there was a general misconception about the order in which shit happened. Fortunately, we can clear this all up by paying close attention to your crime scene diagram. There is in fact one particular detail that tells us the order of events quite plainly. One particular detail that shows exactly how the cards fell. Whoops, I don't know what the fuck I clicked on there. The murder weapon was just that, a weapon, a tool. It doesn't tell us why or when the room was ransacked. In the ARC's file, there are flagged pieces of broken glass near the body. Sure. And we can all reason that the glass is shattered when the rest of the room was ransacked. What's the big deal? The big deal is that ARC shows the glass on top of the victim's body, not under it. In other words, the glass is broken after she'd already fallen onto the ground dead, which means the room must have been thrashed after the shooting and not during a prior struggle, and so the clock still would have been on the east wall when the crime occurred. Why would the killer thrash the room after me? After he shot Diane? A good question. One the detectives will still have to find the answer to after they release you. What are you talking about? It's odd that the room was trashed after the murder, but so what? We still have a photo? I'm glad you do. You're glad? Providing that it wasn't my client who pulled the trigger is... Proving it wasn't my client who pulled the trigger is difficult and, maybe more importantly for us, time-consuming. Thanks to your photo, I can instead prove that it couldn't have been my client who pulled the trigger. Because the man in the photo can't possibly be Carlos. And what do you mean by that? Here comes the coup de grace. I'll have to take care not to wound their pride too badly. Even if doing what I do makes a hostility a given, I'd still prefer not to have any cops walking around actively hating my guts. Carlos clarified that the clock we see in this photo was hung on the eastern wall. So this photo must have been taken from across the alley, not the street. What's this? This isn't a doorway, is this just like light shining on the wall? But then wouldn't it be shining on his face too? Is there a doorway here that's not being shown? And it runs from north to south. So now you're going back to the north window? No. You've been thinking about this crime based on how the room looked afterwards, but we've just now established the room was pristine when the shooting occurred, and now that means what we're seeing in this photo isn't the shooter. What we're seeing in this photo is... Why would it not be the shooter? A reflection? We're not seeing a shooter with a gun in their left hand, we're seeing a killer take aim with their right arm. Whoa, and as we all know, my client hadn't had a working right arm in a number of weeks. The fingers on his replacement don't even have joints. So I meant what I said about your photo. I'm glad that it was recovered, because it just proved that my client couldn't have possibly committed this crime. He could have had a backup. He could have had another stolen prosthetic. Stubborn, this one. A little stubbornness can be charming, but this kind of desperation is ugly. It's getting late. Time to put my foot down. A bit. Even a bare bones prosthetic off the black market needs to be attuned to an individual's nervous system. You have to bring it into a clinic, which would have left a record on his shoulder OS. A record you won't find. And he'd still have to somehow have gotten rid of it before the police arrived. Standard operating procedure at the scene of the violent crime calls for full spectrum scanning of the entire building and 100 meters around at minimum. So where did he manage to hide an entire cybernetic arm for your drones in the time between shooting and his arrest? Show me your hand, Flat. You're uncuffing me? In light of the evidence, we have no reason to hold you. Shit, now we got to call the DA and they're gonna be pissed. Your attorney is a real tiger. She fought like hell for you. Make sure you think her properly. Yeah, that's kind of you to say, Detective. Just don't start expecting a kind of kindness from the rest of my peers, Counselor. What happens now? I have to speak with the DA about dismissal. And there's still some paperwork we need to deal with, but basically, you're free to go. But what do I do? What am I supposed to do? The investigations will continue. The authorities may contact you for further interviews. They may not. When we're satisfied with their examination of the body, she'll be handed over to the next of kin, and you can make your preparations for her funeral. No, that's not what I meant. Diane being gone is one thing, but a serial killer? It's like dying of the flu. It doesn't happen anymore. People die of the flu all the time. I know what you mean. I can't make sense of it. What am I supposed to do? Well, if I know. There are some phone numbers I could give you. Services, professionals, doctors. No, you've done more than enough for me. When you got here, I was too tired to even defend myself to try and convince them that I didn't. You saved me. Thank you. You're welcome, Carlos. It's my job to. No, I thank you for not asking. For not asking if I killed her. I didn't need to ask, Carlos. I knew you were innocent from the start. Of course he was. After all, the blood's always a little different. Heart's always in the same place, easy to find. But the blood's always a little different. It stains the chest like a flower unfurling its petals towards some unknown sun. A perfectly unique bloom. Only one for each of us. A Rorschach test with a singular universal meaning, vitality at its climax, bursting forth into a red fractal consisting solely of an infinite the end. But the comical thud of a body hitting the floor has its own kind of lowbrow appeal. What the fuck? That was bullet number 6 of 6. The gun's empty. It's useless to me now. May as well leave it. Feels like a waste, but whatever. Finding the ammo for one of these is almost enough of a hassle to outweigh the advantages. I could sell an untanked gun for a fair bit of cash, but even cash leaves a trail. More headaches to deal with. She didn't say anything when I entered. Moping around in the dark here, she must have been only able to see my silhouette. Did she think I was her boyfriend? Back for an encore of that enthralling conversation? Can't ask her now. Hey? Yeah, hi, yeah, you hear that? These old piercers are so damn loud, and people aren't even familiar enough with the sound anymore to know to run the other way. Probably roused half the neighborhood, but I didn't see anything I could even use as partial suppressor on the way in. Could they really not afford some throw pillows? I used the other 5 bullets in outdoor spaces in small spheres of blind opportunity in the city's eyes. Couldn't think to pierce. Cramped space is usually full of trash, but this room, as cheap as it looks, is at least clean, organized even, so the corpse adds a certain satisfying contrast. Except there's shit on the floor. By the western window, there's some broken pieces of something fragile and tacky. It's fine. It's just one thing out of place. Actually, it's not fine. It's actually really irritating. I kick over the stupid goddamn mirror. 5 perfect crime scenes, each of them. Not a speck of evidence, nothing to go on. And for the final shot, there's got to be a goddamn pile of crap in the corner ruining everything. I kick the wall, something falls from it, probably some more tasteless bullshit. I toss over the chair, knock the urn, tear into the sheets of my frustration, and try to savor the shredding. If it can't be clean, I'll just have to lean into the messy angle. This is all so stupid. I'm not the bragging type, but even I felt satisfied when the first 3 went down with single shots. After that, I did start actively aiming for the heart, but Heartbreak Killer, really? No, that was someone else's name. They came up with it. They spread it. They marketed it. Besides, Heartbreak is reclusively, socially impotent loser who shot 6 people because... Well, I'm sure the press will come up with something. They got rejected one too many times or whatever. Me, I killed those people because I saw them and I wanted to. And I've killed a lot more than just 6. At least the room is suitably tossed now. Took me a few moments, but I've had just walked away after seeing that mess by the window. It would have irritated me to no end. Good riddance, Heartbreak. You're far more trouble than you are worth. You enjoyed your 15 minutes. I'm going home. The air's weighty tonight, thick, energized, a heavily foreshadowed summer rain I can feel on every hair. They call this kind of humidity oppressive, but I disagree. The warm tension on your skin, like those in short memories just after the shower turns off when the steam lingers. Yeah, it's always most comfortable right afterwards. Maybe there's no disagreement to be had. Oppressive things can be comforting too. Sirens. Only the guilty ones run. I don't know about that. But I know I've never felt guilty about any of this. In me, I walk. I took a scenic route home and got in a bit after 11. I had myself a thorough shower, drank some water, did some stretching. Made sure my phone was on. Time went by evenly. Around 1:40 a.m., a posting for public defender work came up. Decent rate since it was so late and so urgent. I had wagered correctly that the boyfriend would have had enough sense to ask for a lawyer, even enough debt that he'd need to be provided one. All I had to do was stay awake. There wasn't much competition after 1 in the morning. It would have been easy to convince Carlos to plead out, or just screw up his defense so badly he ended up going down for the Heartbreak killings anyway. But easy is dangerous. Carlos was, of course, innocent, so his conviction would never be airtight. There would be doubts, questions, appeals. Maybe even fans, depending on his looks. More attention on HK and his crimes, more headaches. Cold case rotting in the very far back of the public's awareness is always preferable to one open and shut in haste. Now, with no more murders matching HK's MO, there won't be any additional public pressure to find a culprit. Now Heartbreak can just starve to death out of sight and mind like any other fluke in the system. Getting involved with the case this intimately had its risks, but it was worth it for the peace of mind, the finality. Seeing the authorities' failings from the best seat in the house was just a bonus. Thanks again, Morgan, for everything. I'm sure Diane is grateful too. Funny. I didn't even know her name. No more victims to be found, no more suspects to pursue, no more loose ends of any importance. All that's left now is for me to deal with... Hold it, Councilor Morgan. District Attorney Rockford. Sorry, can I try that again? I'm so goddamn fried. Of course. Damn, she cute. Councilor Morgan, good morning, noon or night. You're always so put together. Like you've always gotten 11 hours of sleep the night before with time for naps. God, I must have bags under my eyes, dark enough for dumpster diving. Emma Rockford, she's district attorney, a prosecutor who works at the city. And despite her sometimes unkempt appearance, she's probably the sharpest person to fill the position in decades. We've been in each other's respective orbit for a few months now. In that time, we've negotiated, debated, and argued against each other in court. She has the remarkable ability to compartmentalize all the adversarial energy and only bring it out in the courtroom. It's part of what makes her good at her job, and hard for me to read. What have they got you doing at this hour, then? Actually, I'm here for you. Me? Your client was suspected in the Heartbreak killings? That's my case. Well, then you must have been relieved finding out that you won't have to go to trial against me. No? Why would I be worried about going up against you? It's always the unintended barbs with her. So you're working with those detectives? Yeah, London and the new girl, Reyes? They've been reporting directly to me in preparation for the trial. Preparation for the trial? That seems ambitious. I guess they give you the rundown. Yeah, okay, it's been rough going. It's hard to catch a killer who leaves behind so little. It's hard to kill while leaving so little for you to find. So Reyes told you they had the HK in custody and you popped out of bed all excited to run down here? Hardly. I haven't been asleep in over 30 hours. Too much on my mind. So when I heard about a case of the single female victim shot through the heart, yeah, my ears perked up. But then I glanced at the report. Carlos Flat is no serial killer and he's definitely not HK. She means it. No middle name. No gunpowder residue on him. Too remorseful, too apologetic in that note, whatever it was about. His dominant arm modded with documented sensitivity issues. Never could have made the shots that clean, not without getting close enough to leave scorch marks. On top of which, too tall for the ballistics entry angles and too heavy to not leave imprints. She got all that from a glance. But I'm sure, of course, a competent lawyer like yourself pointed all that out the moment you walked in there. Of course. The worst part is she's not even being sarcastic. Yeah, of course, it couldn't have been him. Long-term relationship, no trouble holding jobs in the past. Physically imposing, argumentative, so not the type to bottle things up. He didn't match the profile. Profile? Sorry, you probably never heard of it. I know what a goddamn profile is. Profile is a reconstruction of the criminal psychology based on evidence from their crimes. Fallen out of fashion for the past 2 decades, if you can imagine. I've had to find some real fossils and oddballs to get advice on how to go about it. It's some kind of investigative tool. The theory is that the crime can tell you something about the nature of the person who committed it. Stabbing, overkill, points to rage, loss, they probably knew their victim. Poison and guns, meanwhile, suggest they can't physically overpower others. Uh-oh, guns, must be a woman. And then there's things you can assume about nearly all serial offenders. Childhood trauma, prior criminal record, few or no meaningful attachments. There's a lot of recurring themes in their stories. What sort of story you're hoping to spin for HK? It's not a happy one. HK's diligent. Almost perfect. But their absence of evidence actually tells us a lot about our killer. Even if it's hard to say what he is exactly like, it's easy to tell that he isn't Carlos Flat. How so? Getting away with a murder like that takes more than just planning. HK must be highly intelligent, painstakingly organized, and affluent or connected enough to get their hands on an untagged firearm. Probably a lone wolf, educated, they feel overqualified or undervalued, and considering their marksmanship. The detectives did mention that HK would need insider information on optics. So does that mean Heartbreak's in law enforcement? Heartbreak's a misnomer, and law enforcement? Frankly, I doubt it. Oh. Too visible an occupation with too thorough an application process. They could charm their way through any given conversation, but they can't fool everyone all the time, right? It would be difficult lying to cops all the time. Maybe a secondary or tertiary relation to the police. They can't help but insert themselves. What the hell is that phrasing? Wait, but if they're not a cop, how do they know about the blackout timing? Crime, meta statistics analysis, probably. Pardon? Take the police response times from across the city and map them out. Look for brief spikes and delays. Try out the dips in. Sorry, technical, I know. But all requisite data is publicly available. Anyone could do it if they wanted to. That's such an unpleasant thought. Whoever they are, they're not vain, unfortunately. If you could resist the chance to gloat to the police and media about getting away with murder 6 times in a row. Yeah, a whole 6 times. Mind-blowing. You wouldn't find them standing out in a crowd. They're a blank slate, a chameleon. Superficially charming with no substance to back up. A terminal mask swapper. It's rare to see her this animated outside of the courtroom. It's almost like she's enjoying herself. Their crimes have no sadism, but there's no remorse either. The bodies... Oh, fuck. Can we go back? Can we go back? The bodies are just left on the ground like they weren't even worth anything anymore. Your words, not mine. All of which is to say they're not easy to categorize and they're no traditional psychopath. Psychopaths, really? What year is this? Person with low social empathy inventory score if you prefer. Hey, if you want to diagnose your killer with hysteria while you're at it, go right ahead. Maybe I will. Parts of this are based on some pretty old-fashioned thinking, and I'm sure it can sound like I'm just guessing. But the one thing I do know is that these aren't his only killings. Were there other shooters with the same MO? Other victims that looked similar? No, not that I found. It's just... No one can kill like that when it's their first time. Getting things that perfect takes practice. And I'm afraid that this person has a lot of practice, Morgan. That's why I said heartbreak is a misnomer. You got something catchier in mind? Truth is, I think shooting them in the heart is just a testament to their accuracy and their efficiency. The best possible use of 6 untagged bullets. Their real signature isn't the bullets or the gun. It's the perfection. That's hard to wrap your head around. I'm saying these 6 murders are just a fluke, a slip-up, a mistake? Exactly, a mistake. They got too clean, too efficient, and now they got the public's attention. Must be the worst kind of mistake for someone with no ego to speak of. No ego? How zen. Yeah, they must be a real Buddha. Or a real devil. Oof. Okay, that rant is pretty morbid and detailed. I need to get out more. I'm always happy to listen to you ramble about something or other. It's a lot more pleasant than having to face you in the courtroom. Sorry, but that's the adversarial process. So no hard feelings, yeah? No hard feelings. We're both just doing what we do. I could use a cup of coffee. How about you? Don't tempt me. You can fall asleep face first onto the table and I won't even take a picture. Pfft, okay. Just don't expect this to make a difference next time we're at each other's throats. Heartbreak Killer won't claim any more victims. Before this week's through, the media will have moved on to the next sensation, and the police will have moved on to the cases they can actually stand a chance of closing. It's what people do. But Emma is different. Damn, these are some good screens, bruh. She'll set it aside and work a dozen other cases, never bringing it up again. But a private corner of that frustratingly sharp mind of hers will continue to whittle away at it. Never finishing, but never quite quitting either. So I can't afford to take my eyes off of her. As long as that's the case, I may as well try to enjoy the view. The thing is, when they showed the picture, taken through the blinds or the window or whatever, they said that the killer only had one left arm. And it ended up being a right arm, but like, why was Reyes so confident that they only had one arm? And it wasn't just a sleeve hanging by their side. And it ended up being, Morgan, who has 2 arms. So it's like, okay, Reyes is pretty fucking stupid. Or presumptive. So you're gonna be living with my friend for a while? For how long? I'm sorry, I don't know. There's no need to look that upset over it. My face barely moved. Well, it may as well have been a blatant pout to me. This friend of yours, they're trustworthy? Absolutely. In fact, I trust them more than anyone. Come on, it'll be fun. Really? Really? Educational, too. I think you could stand to learn a lot from someone like Morgan. To be continued in Chapter 1, An Idle Mind. Cool. Evil little bug. Damn. Our demo contains an entirety of the prologue chapter, an episodic self-contained murder mystery case of build-up, rising tension, conclusion, and ending. There's no paywalls or under construction sections interrupting your complete experience. Very nice. I hope they're happy with that feedback. Also, maybe I typed it wrong. Maybe I forgot a second L. Three cigarettes, pretty casual. Play my fucking visual novel.